Well, Times Now this evening brings you visuals that Pakistan will deny on record. This is proof of how terrorists are aided and shielded by Pakistani forces near the border. Times Now has accessed pictures and a report which details how Pakistani Rangers helped push terror at the border in July 2016. 10 sequences over the next few minutes, and one after the other we will tell you how Pakistani Rangers helped these terrorists that you see on your screens very close to the international border, 50 meters from it. These were pictures captured at a little over midnight, and we'll show you in the next few minutes how Pakistani Rangers helped these terrorists escape once India called out the game of how Pakistan is pushing terror at the border. Prema, take us through the report that you've accessed and what this report shows on how Pakistan helped these terrorists get close to the border, first of all, and second, how Pakistani forces gave them a safe passage to escape.
Well, Niranjan, if you see, this is absolutely shocking because we have pictures. We've caught these Pakistani terrorists trying to cross the international border and trying to hide near the Indian side, near the Indian fence. In fact, this incident, Niranjan, happened on July 11th, and this is a very recent video which where we can actually see those 4 to 5 terrorists who are trying to cross the Pakistan side and who are trying to cross the international border, and they try to hide near an Indian fence. I can just show you in this map, Niranjan. This is actually the location. In fact, if you see, this is the side, this is the Indian side, and this is the Pakistan side, and this is the international border. And Chorgali, this is the place, this is the border outpost, Indian border outpost, and on the other side, Pakistan side, Bikachak, this is the Pakistani side. Now these terrorists tried to move from the Bikachak side, and they tried to cross over the international border, and they wanted to move on to the Indian side. Now if you see this document, Niranjan, this document very clearly talks about what really happened on that night when the thermal images were caught by the BSF. In fact, in those thermal images that we are seeing on screen now, we can spot those 4 to 5 terrorists who are trying to cross over in the night, and this image is between the footage time is between 2:54 to 3:42 a.m. That is in the night on July 11th this year. And in fact, if you see, what has happened is, in the morning the BSF took up this matter with the Pakistani Rangers and said that, look, your terrorists are trying to cross over, they are still trying to hide, they are still hiding near the fence. And Pakistani Rangers, first they denied, they said no, there are no terrorists in that area, and we tried to do our own search operations. But after Indian BSF trying to persistently tell the Pakistani Rangers to come towards the international border side and to try and carry out a search operation, then finally the Pakistan Rangers came. And remember, Niranjan, when the Pakistani Rangers came, they came without wearing a bulletproof vest, they came without wearing a helmet. Very clearly this shows that Pakistan Rangers knew that even if they were terrorists, even if they were LET terrorists or JEM terrorists, they would not shoot at the Pakistani Rangers. In fact, if you see this document, this is the intel report on this entire incident, and here it says the way Rangers, the Pakistan Rangers, that is the Pakistani army, carried out the entire search operation shows that they had complete knowledge and information of presence of the terrorists in that area, and surely infiltration was planned by terrorists with the help of Pakistani Rangers. And then they say the coming of Pakistan Rangers to search the probable terrorists without bulletproof vests and helmet raised serious doubts about credibility of Pakistan Rangers, and it shows that they have no fear of being fired by terrorists. Initially, Pakistan Rangers denied the presence of the terrorists in that area, but their activities from 12:50 hours to 17:10 hours clearly shows that they were busy in organizing a safe passage to terrorists back along with their arms, ammunitions and explosives to the hinterland in Pakistan, right under the nose of BSF Naka Mound, located approximately 150 meters away. And then they say, this is the most important part, Niranjan, where it says it seems that it was a well-planned infiltration attempt with close support of Pakistan Rangers, and Rangers and terrorists are hand in glove to each other. Now what happened following that is Pakistan Rangers, they came, they started searching that area. And then they say that a Tata 207 vehicle came and it took the terrorists away, and it took the terrorists' weapons, ammunitions and explosives also away. Now in fact, the report also goes on to talk about why the BSF did not shoot at the terrorists. In fact, if you see here, Niranjan, it says BSF did not fire as they did not cross the international border, and firing might have raised question by Pakistan Rangers that BSF killed or targeted their civilians. But this entire incident shows how Pakistan has constantly been trying to push across the terrorists. In the morning, Niranjan, we did the story about the confessional report of Bahadur Ali, where Bahadur Ali speaks about how he was motivated by the JUD and how the LET had tried to push him across the border. And now this document and these videos, the thermal images of the BSF very clearly shows how Pakistan terrorists have been pushed by Pakistan Rangers themselves. And in fact, this BSF report very clearly talks about how Pakistani army and these terrorists are hand in glove with each other.
I want you to stay with us, Prema. Let's play out those sequences. We have two sets of visuals that we've accessed, two sets of pictures that were captured by the Indian forces, by the BSF at the international border. Prema, stay with us. In fact, we have two sets of pictures like we've been talking about. The first set of pictures captured during the early hours, the wee hours of the morning on the 11th of July 2016. This is sequence 1 from the border. Now what it shows you is that 4 terrorists with backpacks are spotted by the BSF on the Pakistani side. This is roughly about 100 meters from the international border. This is sequence 1, and you can see them in sequence 2. If you look at sequence 2 very carefully, you can see that these terrorists move towards an area where there is wild growth very close to the border. It's a little densely, it's a dense forest area very close to the border. They move closer to the wild growth to hide behind those trees. And of course, they are seen in this sequence moving closer, and in a few seconds they get into the wild growth, so they are not spotted by the Indian forces. But what they don't know is that they've already been captured. Now, sequence 3 from the border. Now, this shows you, in fact, the first few seconds where you can just see them walk into the wild growth. They are seen hiding. Now, this is about 50 meters from the border. 50 meters from the border, they are captured moving into the wild growth. In fact, if we bring you sequence 4, you can see how Indian forces by this time know exactly where these terrorists are hiding, and they keep their focus on them in that wild growth area. In fact, in the forested region, they're moving from one portion to another, trying to use the cover of the wild growth while they move closer to the international border. Now, this is about 50 meters from the border, and 1 hour later, movement is spotted again. Movement spotted around 4 a.m. This was nearly 1 hour after we first spotted them. In sequence 5, you see that they try to come closer to the border. This is roughly about 40 meters. They try to come closer. And by this time, India knows exactly their position and where and what the Pakistani designs are. Of course, all of this is happening under the cover of Pakistani Rangers who are at the border, who are manning the Pakistani side of the border. All right, now this is sequence 7 from the border. In fact, we'll play out sequence 6. We'll just cue that up. But this is sequence 7, where you can see Pakistani Rangers. By this time, India has already informed the Pakistani side of the movement that was noticed at the international border. India has informed, in fact, BSF has casually spoken to the Pakistani Rangers, and by this time, they have reached the location. First, they are in denial on the terrorists infiltrating, and then somehow a hasty move is made. Prema, take us to these pictures that were taken during the daytime. Tell us about the sequence of events after India told Pakistan, after India informed Pakistan, what played out after that sort of proves how these Rangers that we show on your screens now during the day gave a safe passage to these terrorists.
Well, Niranjan, between 2:54 and 3:42 a.m., that was when the Pakistani terrorists were trying to infiltrate, and they tried to hide near an Indian fence on the international border. Then what happened is, in the morning, the BSF had taken up this matter with the Pakistani Rangers, and at around 12:50, 5 Pakistani Rangers came without bulletproof vests. But even before that, the moment BSF in the morning at around 7 a.m., when BSF took this matter up with Pakistani Rangers, first they denied. They said that no, there are no terrorists in that area. We also had our army men trying to cover that area and trying to protect that area, and we did not see any terrorists. But then after BSF persistently asking the Pakistani Rangers to come and carry a search operation in the international border, That's when Pakistani Rangers finally send their team at around 12:50. That is the time when 5 Pakistani Rangers come to that area, and they come there without wearing a bulletproof vest and without wearing a helmet. Now, this very clearly shows that Pakistani Rangers clearly knew that the terrorists would have not shot at them if they would have finally found some terrorists there. In fact, what happened is at 12:50, these Pakistani Rangers come and search that area, and then they say once again that we cannot find the terrorists. And then BSF once again tries to point towards the area, towards the fence where the Pakistani terrorists were hiding, and that's when finally Pakistani Rangers, they go to that area and they try and apprehend these people. But what happens is, at 4 o'clock, that is the time when, to be very precise, it's at around 4:15 hours, a white Tata 207 type vehicle with soft hood, it says it with soft hood, came and carried the terrorists away. Now, the thermal images, we have clear footage of the next day, what really happened during that time. A vehicle came along with Pakistan Rangers, and this vehicle carried the terrorists away. Not only the terrorists, but the vehicle also carried the arms and ammunitions and explosives these terrorists were carrying. That was also carried away, but still Pakistan continued to be in denial. In fact, if you see, here they say at 5 p.m. that day during the casual contact, again the Pakistan Rangers denied the presence of terrorists, and the Pakistan Rangers said that during search operations they could not find a single terrorist, and they said that the movement could have been the movement of wild animals. So even when we can see these terrorists in the thermal images, even when the Pakistan Rangers came in a vehicle, they carried the terrorists away along with their arms, ammunitions and explosives. Pakistan still continued to be in denial by saying that there were no terrorists there, they were only wild animals. In fact, this clearly shows that even if you show any amount of proof, let it be it documentary proof, pictures or videos, Pakistan will continue to be in denial.
Right, Prema, stay with me. In fact, as we continue to bring those pictures, in fact, we have more pictures from the daytime to sort of show the contrast between what happened in the intervening hours of the 11th of July and what happened during the day after India had tipped off Pakistan and tried to ensure that these terrorists were either arrested. But it's shocking to see what happened after that. We'll play that out. But let's get in some first reactions to the news break. Brigadier Mahalingam joining us on the phone line. I also have Lieutenant General Jaswal who's joining us live. But let me get in Brigadier Mahalingam. Quick word from you, sir. We've accessed pictures from the border, proof that BSF has, captured using night vision cameras to show how Pakistani Rangers helped push terrorists across the border. In fact, after we informed Pakistan, the next day, the same Rangers came back and ensured that these terrorists got safe passage out of there. In fact, we'll show those pictures where those terrorists are seen running away. Brigadier Mahalingam.
This is the point that we have to understand. Pakistan continues to be in a denial mode. Second fact that we have to understand is the LOC, which is there in opposite India. It's manned every inch by the Pakistanis. The point that we have to remember is that Pakistanis have been sending these people across, but for their help, facility and their cooperation, the terrorists would have had no chance whatsoever of crossing and getting across. In fact, if I remember correctly, I had interrogated a district commander of one of the very leading militant outfits, Hizbul Mujahideen. He very categorically brought out right in the training camps, they have individuals who are military officers who plan the infiltration. The individuals are nominated who will take them right up to the border. There will be liaison or in fact interaction between these militants, the leader who leads them to the border, and also to the military establishment which is guarding the border.